Now, most of you know our special guest for the evening. He is Mr. Alfred Liggins, Chief Executive Officer and President, Radio One Incorporated, and Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, TV One. In his role as Chief Executive Officer and President of Radio One, Mr. Liggins has led the company's transformation into a diversified, multimedia platform that owns and operates 55 radio stations located in 16 urban markets in the United States. Mr. Liggins is responsible for the overall management and operating performance of Radio One's assets, pursuing new business ventures, identifying acquisitions, managing an integrated business plan, and attracting key talent. Please welcome Mr. Liggins as he comes to the stage.
Most of you all probably know my mother, Kathy, but that's good enough too. So, but thank you very much for that kind introduction. Thank you, Ms. White and the Urban League of Hampton Roads, and my friends at Cox Cable. Gary, good to see you. Thank you for the invitation. And all of you here, allowing me the honor and privilege of being part of this 23rd annual Whitney M Young Awards Dinner and experiencing this very special event firsthand. Education and jobs and opportunities are so very important and truly inseparable. There's an old proverb you may be familiar with. Give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach that person to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. I'm incredibly fortunate to have had a mother named Catherine Hughes. As my mother, at a very early age, she taught me a key life lesson. She taught me why it was paramount to have a strong work ethic. It is a lesson I adhere to daily. As a single parent at the time, my mother had worked in a radio station, but she harbored an unwavering dream to own and manage a station of her own. Despite being turned down by numerous banks while seeking to secure the funds to purchase her first station back in the late 1970s, she eventually obtained the backing she needed. It's a story that many have heard many times before. By purchasing WOL AM in Washington, D.C., she made her dream a reality. But that was just one step in her amazing journey. In running a major market radio station, if that wasn't enough, she also hosted her own daily talk show because she couldn't afford to pay anybody else to do it, and was involved in selling advertising, that eventually became my job, and executing promotions. She was raising me and making sure we had food on the table as well. Some people can claim that they lived at the office, but we actually did 24/7. We had a small apartment and an unused portion of the radio station studio facility. I trust you'll agree with me. She set a great example for what it is to possess a true work ethic. For me, it was a great education. Fortunately, I also inherited my mother's love of media. It was then and is now in my blood. We began strategically adding a few stations here and a few stations there. Though it was hardly that simple, this is how Radio One was born. During the early days of radio, the industry was booming. To be sure, broadcast television and newspapers gave you competition, but cable was still emerging at the time, and there was plenty of business to go around. There were significant opportunities to expand in radio back then. If your station group was a successful one, the best expansion strategy was to purchase undervalued stations and underdeveloped stations and improve their ratings and their cash flow. The biggest challenge at the time was finding the capital to make these purchases. That was the hard part. But once you secured the capital and acquired the assets, it was off to the races. During that time, believe it or not, even badly managed radio stations exponentially increased in value. You didn't even have to really be good at operating them. Those were the good old days. But then the media world changed. It's kind of like real estate, right? Flipping houses. But the media world didn't change. It changed radically. In fact, it changed forever and would never be the same again. The radio industry, which had averaged 8% growth annually for some 30 years, flatlined for the next 6 years as a result of those changes. But believe it or not, the worst was still to come. The industry, as well as the entire nation, crashed when the Great Recession hit. It's still hard to believe, but the radio industry actually lost approximately 30% of its overall revenues between 2007 and 2010. We're still in love with radio, but it became apparent that diversification was needed to provide a safe haven for the company. Cable television was now a mature business and an attractive growth opportunity, as evidenced by the unrelenting efforts of the major telephone companies to enter it. And they weren't the only ones who saw cable as the land of new opportunities in media. We did as well, and launched TV One back in January of 2004. BET had already been on the scene for 2 decades, but we strongly felt that the African American audience was one that was still quite underserved when it came to mass media. We saw a window in which to expand beyond just the radio business. It was a calculated bet and one that paid off over time. Today, I'm extremely proud to say TV One is now available in nearly 60 million households around the U.S., and we have a very loyal viewing audience that regularly tunes in to watch such hit series as Unsung, The Ricky Smiley Show, and R&B Divas, among others. TV One offers a broad range of real-life and entertainment-focused original programming, classic series, and music designed to entertain, inform, and inspire a diverse audience of adult African Americans. As we rapidly approach our 10-year anniversary in January of 2014, we've reached a level of relevance within the African American community and created a roster of compelling and diverse original programming that is unprecedented for an independent network starting up in the last 10 years. To that end, we're proud that TV One has indeed become recognized as the place where Black life unfolds. So now we have 2 successful media platforms, Radio One, and you may know, we don't own any radio stations here, but we've got 9 syndicated shows, so you may know Tom Joyner, Yolanda Adams, Ricky Smiley, we syndicate the Reverend Al Sharpton Show. Our second successful platform, TV One, now almost 10 years old. But in life, there's always a curveball. And in our case, in the case of media, that curveball is the internet. The advent of the internet caused a substantial disruption of media consumption patterns throughout the U.S. and the world. All media had to come to terms with the fact there was a new competitor in our midst. Radio and TV have been less affected than the newspaper and magazine businesses, but the emergence of the internet was a real game changer for all media companies, both on a national and a local level. Many local newspapers have gone to printing just 2 or 3 days a week, and some magazines now publish only digital editions, including the legendary Newsweek, if you can believe it or not. Radio and TV are so-called traditional media platforms. They now have to share the revenue pie with the internet. The emergence of the internet has provided all of us in media with some of the biggest challenges we've faced in many years, possibly in our careers. The flip side of that equation, though, is that the internet has also provided us with exciting new opportunities. The solution, of course, is being able to navigate, manage, and successfully leverage those opportunities. That's why we created Interactive One, a collection of the country's largest digital platforms targeting African Americans, with approximately 10 million monthly unique visitors. Interactive One has become the definitive online resource for the urban community. Interactive One is comprised of websites for each of our radio stations and our syndicated talent, like Ricky Smiley and Yolanda Adams, original websites created to serve the varied needs of our community, like our women's website, Hello Beautiful, which actually has more traffic than Essence.com, the Urban Daily, and our social network, BlackPlanet.com, to name a few. One of our biggest internet brands is actually our news site, News One, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. While the internet holds great promise, it is not yet at the dependable revenue stage of its evolution as both radio and television are. First there were display ads, then came search, next was video, more and more we're seeing new apps and social networks. The internet platform is most definitely continuing to evolve and attract new consumer eyeballs. Our premier internet brand, News One, as digital platforms continue to replace traditional media platforms even in the Black community, we view News One as the future news source for African Americans, carrying on the mantle started with publications like the Chicago Defender and the Amsterdam News. Clearly, in many ways, the internet side of the business is not like Radio One or TV One. For instance, if you work for TV One, you could just walk into an advertising sales meeting at McDonald's, state that you're the second Black TV network that has been launched in the last 20 years following the initial launch of BET, and we're partnered with Comcast. There's an immediate credibility and an interest in doing business with you. However, there is no household named Black internet company with a 20-year track record of educating brand marketers and their agencies about the value of working with such a company to reach African American consumers online. So that is the role of Interactive One. As you can see, it is an exciting opportunity with its own unique set of challenges. So we now have 3 platforms working seamlessly to create a gateway that reaches 82% of African Americans.